Ladies and gentlemen, you know what? Let's scratch that. I don't really feel like going through an intro, so let's start by saying this. I've reviewed 1,287 days of data just for the orb alone. Now, I'm not going to get into too much details about how the orb is, described. You can search that up on YouTube and find multiple videos on how or what the orb is. I'm here to just present the stats that I got from 1,287 days of back testing the orb. And let me say this before we move forward. I am not talking about in the sense of back testing by executing. I'm more looking at the statistical side of things, like what was the probabilities of it breaking out high versus low, stuff like that. So there will be no entry, no exits, nothing that you can kind of use to immediately trade. This is just stats that I'm kind of sharing with you guys that you can use for whatever context. Before I finish this intro, I must give you the disclaimer that was advised from my law friend. Let me read it to you 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
The statistics and analysis presented in this video are based on historical data and are intended for educational purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Trading involves risk, including the risk of loss. Viewers should not use any of this information for strategies without their own discretion. Always conduct your own research and consider your risk tolerance before making any investment decisions, and consult with a qualified financial advisor. With a qualified financial advisor or trading professional before implementing any strategies discussed in this video. Now that the disclaimer is read, let's go ahead and get into the data. So there was a few things that went into this research. One, there was 5 years of data on NQ. So this is NQ E-minis, this is futures, this is NQ futures. I got the idea from a guy named NQ Stats on X. I love his work. I've just kind of been binge watching some of his videos on YouTube, NQ Stats, and then also just kind of looking at his Twitter. And it kind of inspired me to kind of look and test some of these things and look at what the statistics are. So I do not trade the norm strategy, but it is a part of my morning outlook and helping me give context on the day. So first things first, it was based off of 5 years of NQ data, like I said, from the June 9th of this year to 2020, June 11th, right? The next thing is that I think we should all be very aware of. The opening range I am talking about is from 9:30 to 9:45. I know a lot of people actually sometimes do the 5 minute, some people do the 15. I like the 15. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's just what I started with and it was just a little bit more comfortable for me doing. So that's why I use it. It's just a little bit easier for me to use. I use the 15-minute or just because it's just something I'm used to. No particular reason in general. I just tested with a 15-minute range. Now, one thing that I think I should make very, very clear as well too is how I define breakouts of this range. Now, I did not look for extension of these breakouts. That's another thing you should know. As soon as the close of a candle was above or below the orb, that counted as a breakout for me because, well, from my style, that's all I really need to know. I don't really care how far it goes in a certain direction. I just want to know what direction it broke out in, what was the likelihood of it, and then what's the likelihood of it just breaking out in general, right, on a given day. So the close of a bar, the close of bar counted as a break. So the close of bar counted as a break, which means that if the candle close, right, open, high, low, close, if the close was above the opening range high, that counted as a break for me. If it was below, or the candle closes below the opening range low, that also counted as a break for me. So these are the three things I think you need to know. I kind of need to preface with before looking at the results and the data. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the data. So first things first, I'm not going to bore you with the code. I'm just going to give you the results because you can go and look at it on YouTube and you can find it instantly. Hell, you can use ChatGPT. It's really easy to get started with these things. So let's look at the first stats. So out of the 1,287 days that was recorded, the breakout occurred on 806 of them. So about a 62 breakout percentage rate, right? So that means that the 806 broke out, 481 did not. We have a breakout rate of 62%. So on any given day, the orb has a possibility to break out 62%. Now, one of the things that I wanted to look at is where does this breakout rate increase, was to look at potential orb range. What was the average orb range, and then kind of take it from there. So the average orb range on all days is 71 points. This is not ticks, this is points. 71 points from opening low to opening high. It is 71 points, right? That's the average range, right? The average range on breakout days is 70 points. So basically, if we're in the 50 percentile, it's a high possibility that we break out. The average for days that we don't break out, as you can see, is a little bit higher. It's at 84, right? So it makes sense. If the range is bigger, right, the possibilities of it breaking out is going to be a lot smaller. So now the next thing I wanted to look at is I wanted to look at the percentile sort of things. Now, I couldn't really find a better way to visualize this. I just kind of like looking at the text because it's really easy for me to understand. So ignore this chart for now. I mean, you could look at it and get what you want from it, but let's kind of focus on this aspect. So this is the percentile, right? 90%, 80, 85%, 80%, 75%, and 65%, and then medium orb range, which would have just been 50%, right? These are the metrics that I wanted to take a look at. So 90% of the days are under 124 points, which means the orb range, high and low, is under 124 points. 85% of the days, 113. And next thing is the 75 percentile. So the main two that I want to kind of focus on is the 90 and then the 75 percentile. The 75 percentile is going to mean a good bit because the next part of my outlook was I wanted to see what the breakout rate was for the given percentiles. So if it's 90%, as you can see here, the higher the percentile, right? So the higher the percentile, the lower the breakout rate was. Let's just put this in layman terms. Basically, the bigger the range, the less chance we have of breaking out of it. The next thing I wanted to look at was time. Now, my session window is from 9:30 to 10:30. I work a full-time job, so from 9:30 to 10:30, that's the perfect window for me to not only get the most out of the markets, but not overtrade. So the first thing is first is breakouts before 10. Now, as you can see here, the percentage is 77%. So this just basically means, right, that we tend to break out within the first 15 minutes after the orb, right, is formed. So from 9:45 to 10 o'clock or 9:59, however you want to look at it, we have a 77% chance of breaking out. If not, it is reduced all the way to 22%. So what this is basically saying is if we don't break out in the orb within the first 15 minutes, the chances of us breaking out after is kind of low. Hello viewers, Editing Omar here. No, on a serious note though, what I mean by this is it just mean we have a higher chance of breaking out from the first 15 minutes after orb post than the rest of the session from 10:30 to or 10 o'clock to 10:30. And it could also signal the chance that we may not even break out of the orb. It may be a range bound day, right? So that's something to look at as well too. Sorry if I'm kind of speeding through this. This is my first time kind of reviewing it, and I'm kind of speeding through it because I understand it in my brain. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. The next thing I wanted to look at was the direction, right? So this is how I calculated this. I look at it as an orb from like low to high, right? I don't know what I'm envisioning here, so let's go into the camera. I look at the orb from low to high, right? I physically found a way to calculate it where it's a middle point, and it calculates the middle point for every single day out of that range high and that range low. My question I wanted to know was if we at 9:45 before the opening ranges solidifies for the day, if we close above or below that midpoint, right? Does it have, like, are we most likely to go in a certain direction? It's kind of like the ICT concept of premium and discount, but it's a little bit in reverse. So what we found out, and what this data is basically saying, it's basically saying if the middle point, if at 9:44, right, when that 9:45 candle is about to open up, when that 9:45 candle opens up, if we're above the midpoint, then that means we have a 77% chance of breaking, or sorry, 72% chance of breaking towards the upside. Now, vice versa, if we are at the below, right, if we're below the midpoint, we have a 71% chance of breaking towards the downside. So what does this basically mean? Orb range, middle point, we close and solidify. 9:45 candle opens above midpoint, 70% chance we break to the upside. 9:45 candle opens below midpoint, 70% chance we break towards the downside, right? So that's all that this is really telling you. And here's a nice little chart to visualize it. Absolutely doodle, but hey, we all start somewhere, right? So with that all being said, here's the summary, right? And let's go over it really quickly. So orb range stats, right? The average orb range is almost 80 points. This is the average, the mean, which kind of means that we are excluding outlier days. So it is going to be a little bit yoked up, and that's fine, right? We get an overall range of anywhere from 70 to 80 points over the last 5 years, which is pretty accurate from what I've seen so far. Now, the key numbers that we wanted to look at was the 75th percentile, right? 75th percentile has an 83 chance of breaking out. Now, I don't think I've actually shown that, so let me go back and show it. No, I did, right? 75% percentile has a 83% chance of breaking out. The higher the percentile, the lower the chance we break out, right? Because it's just the orb is much bigger. It's common sense, right? So these were the two that I wanted to look at. If we have a 90 percentile, then we know we have a 69% to 70% chance of breaking out. Still pretty high, which is pretty good, right? But the higher it gets, the higher the range, the lower chance we have of breaking out. We break out 62% of the times from that first 15-minute range. And then this is just a nice little neat summary, long versus shorts. It's about 50% almost. Mainly the breakout timing. Now, this was one that I was really interested about. I'm seeing that 77% of the times we break out before that 10 o'clock candle opens, which is huge because for me, I'm able to get a sense of direction because 9:45 is when I am green lighted to trade, a concept that I got from Trades by Matt, great mentor, and I suggest you go watch him as well too. Last but not least, the midpoint positioning, right? Just kind of getting breakout bias, right? Of course, above midpoint, 72% chance we break long. Below midpoint, 71% chance we break short. And then, of course, these are the percentiles to kind of have as well too. I'll drop a Google Notes of the stats in the description below. But use these stats for however you want to use it. Remember, it's your own context. These are just stats you can use to kind of build together confluences. It's definitely what I plan to do. In about a month or two from now, I'll give an updated video on how these stats have helped me trade. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you made it this long, it's about a 15 to 20 minute video. Thanks for watching. And until next time.